Hi, Scott Lackman, 4510 TV. Today, viewers, on the program, we want to talk about the subject of domestic violence. Now, over the last 2 years, through 4510 TV, we've featured some awareness campaigns, some events that we've hosted locally to bring the conversation out into the public amongst our business community, but also our wider community. Today, joining me, my beautiful fiancée, as some viewers may know, Jackie Tucker.
Hi Scott, how are you?
Very good, Jack. Now, in all seriousness, you're at the front line of domestic violence services through education and training. I want you to give the viewers a snapshot of our most recent fortnight and the tragic events that have unfolded in Queensland.
Look, I think a lot of the viewers already know how tragic it has been. We have had media saturation around this topic and the events that happened where people lost their lives. And look, since January this year, we have lost around 60 people to domestic violence, and we're only up to September. It is out in the media. We are starting to talk about it. But what that also does is people are asking, where do they get help? What do they do to help? Where are the numbers? Where are the people who are going to support them?
And Jackie, let's maybe rewind. Over the last 5 years, you've been at the front line, as I say, with domestic violence services. What have you been doing in that last 5 years?
All right, Scott. So I was the coordinator of Chisholm Women's Refuge, which has been in our community for over 30 years. This organisation is at the front line, supporting those women and children escaping from this terrible situation and giving them hope, support and strategies to move on with their lives. It's a phenomenal service. It's heartbreaking. It's tragic to see the children and the impact it has on them. And it taught me a lot about how if we educated more, we got our communities involved, we got more support and funding around it, how we could actually work towards preventing further deaths.
And as a coordinator of a women's refuge, it is that front line, the woman and family escaping domestic violence through resources of DV Connect, which we'll talk about shortly. They turn up at your refuge, you provide housing accommodation, you provide resources, and you're trying to re-establish these women and families into a new phase of their life without the violence.
Absolutely, and you know, some of the biggest barriers around domestic violence is judgment, is shame, is embarrassment, and they need their community. They need to know that when we do resettle them in a community, they're going to get that support, that they will be able to not relive what's happened but move forward. And our community organisations like our neighbourhood centres, our our art centre that we're here at today, providing opportunities for those families to move forward.
Excellent. Jackie, let's move on to, in the last 6 months, you've taken up a new appointment with Australia's CEO Challenge. Explain to the viewers what Australia's CEO Challenge is working towards.
Sure. Look, I really had an opportunity. I was loving the work I was doing. It was empowering, and I really felt that I could move on and expand my touch points into education and prevention. I think the biggest key to moving forward out of the darkness into the light is around education, especially in our schools, in our workplaces, everywhere in our community, is actually having a conversation and talking about domestic violence. CEO Challenge delivers workplace domestic violence training programs.
Okay, so what you're trying to do on a national scale is you're going into big corporate business, into their HR departments, and you're empowering CEOs and management to educate their staff, but also be a support mechanism if one of their staff members is suffering from family violence. Now, there's a common statistic, 1 in 3 women will experience violence at some stage in their life. Out of that 1 in 3, 2 in 3 are employed in the workforce. What's the message there that you're giving to these CEOs and leaders of corporate Australia?
I suppose it's opening their eyes to the fact that it's not low socioeconomic groups, that it's across all cultures, all areas of our community, and especially in the workplace. they want to keep their jobs. Working with corporate business to develop a policy to support their staff is vital for them to continue on their lives without violence.
And in the work that Australia CEO Challenge is doing, how can we then extend that message into our wider community? And I'm sure people watching this video, which I thank you for tuning in, what can we do as a community towards stopping domestic violence?
Look, around stopping it, there is some behaviour that's been researched which is called bystander behaviour. And, that's what we do. We stand by and we don't actually take action or do anything, A, because of concern for our safety. We wouldn't want anyone to be hurt. However, standing by and doing nothing is not an option. That's not an answer. But what could you do if you saw domestic violence, if you heard your neighbours, if you know children are involved? Pick up the phone, call the police and take some action. We have to kind of get past the barrier of that's a personal relationship. This is not my business. It's got nothing to do with me. It's affecting our whole community. We need to start speaking out and saying something.
There is the alphabet, the 3 R's. Let's go through them, and I think it's really it's a really important message of how, if you haven't experienced family violence and you are a bystander, let's go through those 3 R's.
Okay, so the principles of our training program really focus on recognising signs and symptoms of domestic violence, then responding to that to the person and referring them on to specialist services. We are not all experts in domestic violence, and nor do we need to be. What we need to understand is educate yourselves, go to a website, go to Australia CEO Challenge. We have the key principles on what is domestic violence. Recognise what those signs and symptoms might be and respond in some way. You may have a friend, a family member. Knowing and familiarising yourself with where could you send that person for help. And I think just as a community, if you accept it's happening, understand what it is, and if you do see it, respond in some way. And remember, you're not the saviour. It's not your responsibility to take on that role, but refer them. Refer them to a doctor. Refer them to DV Connect. There's so many avenues available for someone to get help.
Excellent. The 3 R's, recognise, respond and refer. As always on 450 TV, we're going to have some links underneath this video where you can phone numbers and information for DV Connect, men's line, women's line and also Lifeline. Let's touch on that, Jackie. We talk about domestic violence against women, but to be fair, violence happens against men as well.
Look, it does happen, and it certainly happens probably on a smaller scale. I think, we talk about this breaking the silence thing, Scotty, and it's because nobody speaks out. So we don't really know the true scope of statistics for men who may be experiencing it. In fairness, they're not going to tell anybody, they're not going to seek help, and in fact, where would they go for help? So we need to really start looking at the other side of the coin and look at both sides. So yes, men do experience domestic violence, more so probably with emotional, financial, verbal controlling behaviours, but across the board, the statistics are clear. Women and children are most at risk and are experiencing it the most.
Again, we're going to have links to these resources that you can reach out, whether it's yourself, God forbid, or whether it's family, friends, etc. in the community. We're going to have these resources linked on this video, so please take note of those. The resources available, I can imagine over the last fortnight with the awareness that's been in the media, as you say, media saturation, how are these resources coping with this recent media?
Okay, so to be honest, they aren't coping because of the demand for services. Certainly the state government has committed to providing more funding to DV Connect to get more people on the lines, and I would send a message to say keep trying. The lines may be blocked, you may not be able to get through, keep trying. They certainly put on as many people as they can, but you have to understand this is a specialist area. And you want to talk to someone who understands and can empathise with you.
Excellent. Anything you'd like to touch on? I really just wanted to bring this episode to the viewers of our Caboolture and wider community about domestic violence. Enough is enough. We need to stand up and be vocal in our community. We need to recognise, respond, refer. What else would you like to put out to the message today?
Look, my message is probably, I don't know if it's a saying, but you can do more things with more support. And it really is about our community going, okay, this is happening, how can I help? And there are avenues. There's an engagement part to what we do where we connect directly with refugees. Donations. When people move into new homes, they need some furniture. There's a ton of avenues and supports. There's an organisation called Rise Up on Facebook. If you want to make donations, that will help. Google. Have a look at where they need help and how you can help.
Okay. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in. A very special topic for us to feature on 4510 TV. Please look at the resource links, DV Connect, Men's Line, Women's Line, and also Lifeline. And I hope this episode has helped you in some way. Thanks, Jack.
Thank you.